like how we all dance when that plays. Like, even though you guys can't see us, we are behind just all like doing our own little dance moves every single time that plays.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Duel of the Ranks, the show where we debate... Oh, wait, hold on. I'm getting feedback.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm hearing...
There we go. Okay, welcome to Duel of the Ranks, a show that is not scripted because if we did, that would have been a funnier opening. Here we are debating ranks and hot takes for this week. We are reviewing Tales of the Empire, episodes 1 through 6, the Barriss Offee and Morgan Elspeth arcs. Today, I'm your host, Amanda, joined by my co-hosts, Alanis, Darth Chaco, and Luke. And we're just going to have a silly, goofy time with it.
Because we're silly, goofy people. Duh.
Silly, goofy time. But you know what wasn't silly, goofy? Was Tales of the Empire.
Yeah.
I will say, overall, I feel I'm in the minority here when I say that I ate up the Morgan Elsbeth ones. I have genuinely rewatched them going on 8 or 9 times.
Yeah. What?
I love them.
That
I
many.
love them.
And that's and there's only one in particular, and there's only one in particular.
Episode
It's the
2.
Thrawn.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, while I do have my critiques of it, I think it had some funky decisions as far as lore goes, but I think overall it hit every single thing in my books. The Barriss ones, I think were great. I think they were cool. I don't know. I think for a character where we have all been itching to see what happens, they just prolonged it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of my overall summary.
Well, how did you guys watch these? Did you watch it all in one sitting, or did you watch like the first 3 in a batch? Because I think I probably watched it in the most unique fashion, which was I watched episode 1, and then I thought I was going to watch episode 2, but it was actually episode 3. And I don't know why that glitch happened from Disney Plus. Like, we didn't back out of it. It just played episode 3, and we were like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Like this time jump where we're like just following like a senator of the New Republic, and like, oh yeah, I was like, this is a leap, I guess. And then we backed out, and we were like, oh, there was one in the middle that we missed, and it turned out that one was our favorites too. My husband and I, when we watched it, and I was like, that makes a lot more sense how it moves around.
Yeah.
So, don't know how that happened.
So we were getting ready. Well, so Grand Admiral V and I decided to stay up till 3 a.m. because they were dumb and didn't post it at 12, like a bunch of noobs. But anyway, me and V watched, and the funny part about it is that our hotel room didn't have like the TV, and we ended up finding out that TV didn't have a set, like it couldn't go up and down. We were just dumb. So like me and V are trying to like V is sitting this close, like you guys are the TV. She is sitting like this close, just tentatively watching, and
you gotta
like when
get every pixel, you know.
Oh, when Thrawn showed up, she's like, Thrawn, it's Thrawn, and I'm like, V, I'm not here for Morgan Elsbeth. I'm not here for Thrawn. That's cool. But like, they
so are you saying you're here for Vader, and then
they
didn't get anything?
and they get anything, which is pretty typical. But I will talk about that in the Barriss Offee stuff. But yeah, no. So me and V watched the first 3, and then when we got up to get ready for like the con the next day, I rewatched the first 3 while Lannis and Remy and V were getting ready for second day of con.
Well, wait. Before you keep going, I think since our listeners may not be knowing what con you're talking about.
Oh, Philadelphia, Fan Expo Philly. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, Fan Expo Philly. That's where we were this weekend. So we went and did that whole fun. So I didn't watch the second half of it until that next morning, and I was like freaking out. I was like watching the first episodes, like Barriss is like. And just like saying the like when she wakes up, Order 66 happens. The next moment we see her in her cell is the rain coming down, and that's in Revenge of the Sith. That's when Anakin gets put to the suit, and then we get all into that, and I'm like, okay, so he's here, and he doesn't do anything, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And I was initially like, this is dumb. Like, what? They didn't even pick up on Varys and Anakin's relationship, but then this one over here made some sense. But no, that's how I watched it. Long and short, sorry. Jocko.
Yep. And so I watched it a little bit differently. I was waiting for Alana to go, and then I realized, oh no, they saw it together. Okay. All right. So I was also at a con. I was at Dyad Con, which is a con without the con. Which was super fun. It was amazing. So for anyone in the audience watching, you know how when you're at a con and you see your friends and you have like super hyped to see them, but you're off running to this panel, they're off running to this thing over here, so you really get to see each other like quick hits. And then if you happen to be standing with them in the same line and all that stuff, it's kind of irritating. So there was no Star Wars Celebration this year, so we wanted to throw Dyad Con. Basically, it's a con with no con. It's a con where our whole goal is to be with each other. Mm-hmm. And man, it was amazing. Like opening ceremony, we had there's 40 people there from 5 different countries, and we played games, and we gave out tons and tons of prizes. Even had some awesome stuff come through from Box Lunch and from Funko and from what's the other company that's wrapped up with them? Box Lunch, Funko. There's a third company. Anyways, but yeah. I ended up watching.
Villains?
Huh?
Heroes versus Villains?
No. No.
Is it what are you wanting? Question. Sorry.
It's not Lego, is it?
No, it's not. There's just another company that is part of that. It's like a trio. It's Box Lunch, it's Funko, and it's the other company. They gave me this kick-ass jacket. Oh, it's so cool. I should grab it and show you guys later. But anyways, it was super late. We had all been drinking very heavily. And so we watched the first 4 episodes. And then when I realized at one point, my eyes were not open. Like, you know what?
I feel that.
You know what? I'm gonna go to bed. And so I went to bed, and then I watched the rest of them the next morning on my phone.
On the phone, just how George Lucas intended it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I did watch them since then. So
you rewatched them. So you made sure to get it all, which I'm great.
I mean,
I'm so
not
glad.
9 times.
Not 9 times.
Not all of them, just the first 3. It's not that crazy.
So we will defer all of our commentary to Alanis for the first 3, and then the rest of us will jump in. That's what I'm hearing.
No.
Well, I thought it was interesting to start off that the the Morgan Elsbeth arc that starts off is sequentially titled The Path of Fear, The Path of Anger, and The Path of
Hatred.
And then the next episodes don't follow necessarily the same standards. So I wondered if anyone had an opinion on.
I definitely think that was intentional.
Yep.
To kind of show the linking of the Sith ideology with the Empire's own personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think they did that pretty consciously. Especially with the ties with the Night Sisters and all of that jazz. But I really liked it because I just think it added just another layer of complexity, of thought to the episodes beyond just let's throw a title on this and call it a day. So I really did think that was kind of like the cherry on top of the Morgan Elsbeth ones, at least.
So it's also listed. So obviously they take inspiration from Yoda's speech in episode 1. Fear is the path of the dark side. Fear leads to hate. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And if you look at Morgan Elsbeth's whole thing, right? We start off the first episode, she suffers, and then she uses that suffering to overall
Well, she offers
get
the Empire
revenge.
her, her
Yes,
anger.
yes, exactly. and then she uses her hatred against the people that she thought that were going to be on her side. And it's just a revolving door of how much the dark side really is just like a revolving echo chamber. And it's hard to get out of that, especially, I mean, ask Anakin Skywalker, ask.
What I really appreciated about this side of Tales of the Empire is, I think when we think Imperial, we think gray, white, clean, sterile, like very political, very like he said, she said. And I loved seeing this, side of the Empire because it was the mystical, magical spookiness that we typically really only tied to the rebellion. Because there are so many, different people. There's so many different ways of connecting with the Force. And the Empire very notoriously doesn't like that. So I think Tales of the Empire was the perfect vehicle to show that side of the Empire, specifically with Morgan Elsbeth. With the first episode, the other thing that I personally liked, I don't know if this is like a 100% like they did this for a reason, but it reminded me very much of the 2003 Clone Wars, and that is where I think Grievous was like the coolest.
Baller.
So I felt like a little bit of a fanboy in that moment where I was like, look at Grievous! Like, I was like, look at him go. Like,
you sound so proud of him.
I was, because, I missed the Grievous that was like clawing down the side of like the Jedi elevator.
I
Like,
hate that Grievous.
I think it's so stupid and silly. So I really, really enjoyed that end of it. And I think the music in that episode, oh my goodness. Because I mean, that was the whole, highlight of the 2003 Clone Wars was the music. And I think the lack of dialogue paired with the absolutely stunning animation, like, yes, I understand the critique that not a lot happened. But I think as a snippet of a larger picture of the Empire, the first episode was stunning.
Yeah, those commando droids did work. And it's funny because Alanis did bring up the 2003 Clone Wars. Like that's what Grievous, I feel like they missed in the newer Clone Wars series. Like they made him like, oh darn, I didn't get it again. Like you made him less menacing than what he should have been. No, exactly. And it's like Grievous no winning every single time. And it's just, he's supposed to be menacing.
And he was.
Like,
the way that he like laughs every time he kills.
Run.
Yeah,
like,
he gets so much enjoyment out of it.
It's just like his conversation that when he laughs in the Tartakovsky in the last part of the first season, he says, "Run, Jedi, run!" Like he giggles and then says that, and I'm like, that's Grievous. Well, we got like 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 seasons of that. I was like, I wish we would have gotten that. So that was kind of cool.
So I was going to say that was easily my standout as well. Grievous is written as, I mean, all these are, and I'm a massive Star Wars fan, obviously, but sometimes we forget that these are all stories, right? So people play certain roles in stories. Grievous is just a foil. He's a means to the ends for our heroes to have their growth arcs. But because of this, he's written super inconsistently. He's the most prolific Jedi killer of all time, and then he faces off against Kid Ahsoka, and he can't he can't do nothing. And you're like, okay. First of all, can we briefly talk about like Anakin was so focused on finding R2 that he let his child Padawan fight against Grievous, and then they just never address that. No, it's not even addressed in the episode. He doesn't. It's
I like to
so- I
think
don't
like
know.
they had a they reunited, and Ahsoka's like, really, dude, really, really, really.
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
that's
really. And then
a common
no,
occurrence.
honestly, she probably showed up. She like showed up and went, "Hey, Sky Guy, I just took on Grievous and I didn't die." Haha. Haha. It's just like, God dang it.
But yeah, so I mean, seeing him back in the mix was great. Seeing the destruction of the village. We've always known that there were more Night Sister villages, and there's
Mhm.
other things in books like Clone War Stories of Light and Dark, where you find out that there were others. But it was great to actually see that, so people can kind of understand and get on that level, because there's going to be a lot more Night Sister stuff coming in Star
Yes.
Wars. And I'm just here for it, right? Because it's a Force faction that's so mysterious and dark. We don't know a whole lot about them. So
Mhm.
I'm here for anything Night Sister. This one did get me really excited. As far as what you were talking about early with the titles, how we have Path of Fear, Path of Anger, Path of Hate, and we don't have that for the other side, bothers me a lot.
Yeah.
My brain seeks symmetry, it seeks
Yes.
patterns, and I feel like it's just there's
You're
a
going
lot
to
of
treat it one way, like make that consistent across, like, because obviously we're
Exactly.
keeping the form consistent. We're doing 3 stories and they are somewhat chronological. So like that part stays, but then to just be all silly dilly, the next ones are realization, no, devoted realization and the way out. Not even they don't even
Not even a
they don't
single
even go
word.
together.
but
It's like when you're typing out a list and then like you capitalize one thing in the middle and you're like, oh, I like that better. Do I need to- Damn it, I have to start over. Yeah.
no,
What
it's
you were
just
saying about the like mountain clan of like Night Sisters, would you consider them Night Sisters, or is Night Sister specifically that dark magic, or do we know that?
it's specifically the dark
Okay.
because they practice the dark the dark, they use the dark side. And the Mountain Clan, Chaco will know this, that was actually introduced in
1994.
94. The well, and Alanis would know it too, 'cause she's more of a Legends person than I am. The Courting of Princess Leia, they
That's
show
right,
up in
Dave-
that, and that's
Dave
and that's originally where the Night Sister came from, in the Rancor and all of like them writing Rancors. That's from that Legends book. So they were like, the Mountain Clan was originally in that as well. So like seeing her, like the first thing V says, she goes, "She's one of the mothers. She's one of the mothers." I'm like, V, stop it, stop it. It's not. No, it's not right. But like it was so interesting to see that they do exist, because like before that, we all thought everybody's a Night Sister or a Night Brother at that point, a Dathomirian warrior, and come to find out that there aren't any on this godforsaken wasteland. It's just interesting. And she was a boss. Can we just talk about how cool she was? She like showed up and was like
Wait,
Gandalf
which
the
one?
White.
Oh,
The older
Yeah.
Mountain Clan lady shows
Yeah.
up and just Gandalf the White's everybody. I'm like, bro, that's sick. That's cool. Morgan, you should go with her. And then she doesn't. I'm like, missed that opportunity.
All right, Alanis, now tell us everything that we didn't catch in our other watches of this trio of episodes.
So I will say, with the Path of Anger, so when the episode dropped, I feel like half of Star Wars was like Pelion, and then the other half was where's Eli Vanto? And
Yeah.
I'll be so real with you. The episodes are still fresh, so I can't really give a definitive, do I like Pelion in that role right now, or would I have preferred Eli? Because, adding Eli from book to live action, there's so many layers of nuance that goes into that.
Agreed.
But I think with the way that they have been characterizing Thrawn, I do find it interesting how much heir to the Empire they are truly pulling, especially with Rook showing up.
Yeah, that was a jump scare and a half.
When I tell you, when I saw Rook, I was like, oh my gosh, his greasy little feet are back again. This little disgusting creature. So that I think was definitely an interesting tie-in. The Admiral Thrawn end of it, timeline wise, you can debate if he should actually be an admiral at that point or not. I don't really think that matters.
When does he get that, by the way?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my
Isn't
head.
it like halfway through Thrawn 2017?
Here's the thing. I feel like Thrawn's story has been, as far as timelines, changed and debated so many damn times that I think for Thrawn at this point, it doesn't matter.
No, agreed. Yeah.
I truly don't think it matters.
Yeah.
What I think matters more is the idea that the TIE defenders weren't exclusively Thrawns.
Ooh. How does everybody feel about that? That's a weird.
I like it. I like
it. It makes sense.
Thrawn's not an inventor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if he was a D&D class, he would be an artificer.
there's no reason to conclude that he invented the ships. It was more that he was backing this thing, and to see where it came from and to see how that could be a connection to him that he used later on makes a ton of sense. And I don't know, I like it personally.
Yes, agree. And I also like how they've developed the bond between Morgan and Thrawn, because he was the first person within the Empire to reach out to her and accept her and give her what she was looking for. And if you think about it in the larger perspective of Thrawn, who is going into the Empire as not what they traditionally are looking for, maybe this is a stretch. I think he saw that in Morgan, and knowing the Thrawn prequel trilogies, he got cast out, and he definitely was doing it, everything within the Empire for his own people. And so was Morgan, for revenge. While Thrawn was doing it more for protection and safety, he realized, like, okay, here is another person that's not doing it for them. They're doing it for someone else. And among that, she is not the typical, Imperial. So I think the path of anger, when you really, really, really stare at it and look at it, it shows Thrawn as the multifaceted character that everyone's been screaming about, that like, why don't we see him be like how he is in the books? That's book Thrawn. That's book Thrawn. That's book. He's giving someone a chance. He do the rules my way. Come join my team. I am gonna get.
Yeah.
But here we go. So I think in the future, as far as Thrawn's character goes, whatever happens. I think they've already kind of put their stake in the ground as far as that they are leaning more towards heir to the Empire. What everyone's opinion on that really depends on how you feel about heir to the Empire.
Yep.
I have my critiques and love for it, so it all depends. But I also think with the very last one, the Path of Hate, I do see why that one has kind of scored the lowest, because I think overall it is the most inconsequential to the overall plot. Like, we know what happens. We necessarily need to see that? No, but I think we did need to see Morgan putting her foot in the ground as to why this planet went from, a possible resource mine to hell on earth. So it was needed, it wasn't needed. We all can kind of assume that the Empire came in and screwed it up anyway. But I think the kind of crux of seeing Morgan harden, and every single time she does something evil, those doors close. Oh my God, symbolically stunning. Like, she's closing herself off from the world. She's closing herself off from the good.
Yep.
And she's creating her own ecosystem of kind of darkness, and you have Thrawn feeding that.
Yep. So with going back, these are just like aesthetic choices I looked at, and like Rook's sword, can I have that? That thing looks cool as hell. Like, that's so funny. And then like Pelion being off to the side, and then like when we were rewatching, I was talking to Alanis, and I was like, what if Thrawn's just sitting in the tree line being like, Pelion, say this word and I will show up at the exact time.
Like,
it's like they rehearsed it. But I think I like that Morgan Elsbeth is the one that creates the TIE Defender, because also, like Alanis was saying, it brings in that relationship that we're kind of not used to
Mhm.
in because it's like how does this person know Thrawn? Like how? And that's where we get the answer. I think the last one is very consequential to the overall immersive universe because we hear Bo-Katan. We hear Bo-Katan hear the distress call, and that's who ends up telling Ahsoka to go there, and that's who she tells Din to find Ahsoka. So it's very, very it's not important by any means, but it opens up to like how she got there.
So I think you bring up a really good point, Luke, that I wanted to touch with you guys. What do you think the purpose of Tales of the Empire, Tales of the whatever truly is? Is it to tell these small snippet stories to add on to an immersive universe? Is it to fill the plot holes of what people are mad about? Or is it to add on to the story? Because I think with Tales of the Jedi, it was more, hey, let's zoom in and take a look. But
Mhm.
besides the whole Yaddle thing, but
Yeah, I mean, I believe Dave in his reasoning. You know, when we were there 2 years ago at Celebration,
Yep.
and essentially what he said is that he got to see Jen Corbett working on the Bad Batch and saw how much the Clone Wars tools have evolved, and he was like, I want to play with these toys. And these were little sketches and things that he had done, and that he would bring them to life. And that's actually one of the problems I have with it, because I think it can do a lot more narratively, and if it can do more with very little additional effort, it hurts me that it doesn't. You know, I know he's been thinking about Barris's story since I was in the audience at Celebration 2015, when he first let us know that she doesn't die there. That they initially wanted to make her blow herself up in prison with the nanobots, and Dave said no. You know, there's more story to tell with her. Which I'm very glad they didn't do that. That would be
yeah,
really bad. But
Yeah.
That's how I think it's more or less a vanity project for Dave Filoni to play with some cool toys.
Now, do you think that a lot of the reception around Tales of the Jedi would change if that was kind of the
standard?
No, like kind of what the majority of people knew going in. I think even the title, like Tales of, is very indicative of an addition or like a part of, rather than like, let's have a good time. Like, and I think for me personally, I would rather never watch another Star Wars project again than ever get a Star Wars What If.
Yes, agreed.
That's just my personal opinion.
No,
I have a lot of opinions on Marvel even doing it, but anyway. But if they are going to treat it like a What If, and it's going to be like, hey, let's try out all this stuff and then maybe use that later on, then let's get some silly stories. Why do we have to make it so, kind of make or break it to the plot?
Brian's in the comments saying we're getting the Lego What If, and it's going to be so cool. And I'm so glad he brought it up, because that's exactly what but Lego is absolutely the correct
it is.
facility to have that platform. Like already Lego is beloved by children and adults. They have the licensing and the humor to be able to tackle it.
This is my whole thing with What Ifs, and I think that's why Lego does it so well.
Because they're not taken seriously.
No, not even that. What Ifs at its core, they start in the fandom. Let's be real. They start in the fandom. And what Marvel did was they took a lot of very common fandom thoughts and they took it for themselves and made money off of it.
Yep.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that because I really think, and what Star Wars does with Star Wars Celebration is it celebrates this community, as insane it is, or not. And Lego is so perfect because they're saying, yes, we want you to explore these avenues, but we're putting the ball in your court.
Yeah,
Go
exactly.
explore and share and make. And that's Lego's whole thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that. But if Disney came out and was like, hey guys, what if Anakin didn't turn to the dark side? I would explode. I'd be like,
Yeah.
what fan fiction have you been reading?
Wait, no, but I mean, there's literally
Yes.
fan fiction out there.
And that's what I mean, because they
Yeah.
most likely...
Which also becomes problematic because you'll
Yeah.
have to make sure that you're not stealing anyone's
Right.
fanfic.
Or
Yeah,
then the
that
worst part is
too.
then they would copy from a bunch of different sources, and then it really wouldn't make any sense. And
Yeah, and
yeah.
for me, I think that the funnest and coolest part of being a part of any community is having those discussions. And I don't think that a company should go in and take that away.
No,
That's just my soapbox moment.
Well, no, I agree with you because you give the fandom a chance to explore itself. Sometimes we don't need the answers all the time. Like that's the one thing I will say about Star Wars lately is that I feel like they're trying to give so many answers when it's okay to not give us the answers right away. That's
I
what
low-key
keeps
love
people
that we didn't find
engaged.
out about Tech.
Exactly. No, I
He's
think that's
dead.
amazing.
He's
I'm glad
dead.
that
We found out that
dead.
he's dead.
Yeah.
We found out that
As
he's
long
for
as
sure dead.
no, and I agree. But to go back to Alanis's question, I think it's all three. Because if you look at Tales of the Jedi, it built up on the lore from whether it's Ahsoka, gave us more context into her like relationships and stuff like that. And we get Dooku, where it's like he's sort of like a blank canvas for the most part. We don't get a ton of him, really, except for like the Clone Wars and then like Dooku Jedi Lost. And obviously the Attack of the Clones, but like in a little bit of Revenge of the Sith. Now I'm just like counterpointing myself. But like you know what I mean? Like we don't get his story beforehand. And I think that's very, very important. And I think Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire are those projects that you can highlight a character that hasn't been highlighted before, like we were talking about, like Barriss. Because for 10 years we didn't know what happened to her. And segueing from Elsbeth down to Barriss, I think the first episode of this was the start of it. Like it's this one did it for me, not just because Vader showed up, but it showed up as this is what happens when you make consequences. And then it's kind of how you are when you're in a situation that you can't get out of it and you just accept the reality of it. And that's huge for Barriss because she is so stuck in her Jedi way in like the first 4, 5, 6 seasons of the Clone Wars. And then she has her changing of the mind. Well, she eventually does it later because like obviously we see in the next episode, but I really enjoyed this episode because it's like it just like it says devoted. She becomes devoted to the Empire. It takes her a little bit, but she becomes devoted because there is no other way. And I think that's brilliant.
I don't know. I mean, I think by the end of this like arc, we realize that she's not devoted. So that kind of counteracts what they even titled the episode. But Barriss really, her entire arc stood out to me and actually made me emotional, which can be really hard because I take Prozac, so I famously can't cry. So I was actually like, oh my gosh, it's like getting like kind of like warm and fuzzy in my chest. And I think to kind of go back to your question earlier, Alanis, other than like Ahsoka, which we didn't really need the Tales of the Jedi arc for that, I think what has made this so special is that we do get those like filler stories that enrich the world that we're in. Like Dooku is such a curious character because he has such a different point of view than everyone else around him, and we don't get the opportunity to really dive into that on a large scale. And that's the same with Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss. Like there's just so much more to them, and this is the perfect delivery method for their little stories. And I think that Lucasfilm, well, Disney is doing a better job at making sure that this project aligns with the future goals of future projects. Where
Yep.
Dooku may, at least from my perspective, not knowing what all is going on behind the curtain, seems like it was just sort of like maybe a nod to fans and some of that other lore. But the choices to have Morgan Elsbeth and Barriss feels really tactical, with
Mhm.
especially coming off of the Bad Batch entirely being wrapped up, and where we left Ahsoka off, and we know that they're filming Ahsoka too. So,
You know what I will say, which is, and I don't want to like shoot myself in the foot when I say this, or I've just really streamlined like my social media pages, but this was an Imperial show.
Oh my God! Don't say it.
No, but it was led by 2 women, and I
Okay,
honestly
good.
have not seen like any people complaining about that.
well,
Which is a good point.
which that is really rare to hear. And yeah, maybe you
Yeah.
have fixed the algorithm, but
But you know, correct me if I'm. Yeah, actually, don't correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna say
yeah,
my
I would love
nice
to
little
live in
happy
this
bubble.
bubble right now.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah,
Bro,
it's like
but
we were
Have
both
you
at
seen it?
cons. We were both at cons. And we both kind of deafened ourselves to everything. I'm certain that those people are there because they are always there.
they're always
But
there.
Yeah.
I'm also really glad that this was Tales of the Empire and not Tales of the Sith, because
Mm.
Barriss shows how like her story through the Empire and how she has changed under that. And we've heard stories of and seen sort of the outcome of Inquisitors coming through to the other side in like Trilla and others past,
Yup.
like feeling
Reva.
guilt. But right, and we haven't really gone through that story with someone like from the moment. So
Mhm.
that's why I think I felt so much more connected to what was being told here. And then also her becoming like a healer was really beautiful.
Which is known, because
That was a
it's in.
Legends thing.
Well, no, it's a canon thing too.
a
Well, no,
thing,
no,
yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah,
it
is
yeah,
ca-
Queen,
yeah.
yeah, in Queen's Hope, it's discussed that she is one of the best healers in the entire Jedi Order, which is hilarious because if you go to the episodes with Yoda and they put him in the back of the tank, it's like, what? Why would you use Barriss? Oh wait, no, they can't use Barriss because she's captured. Never mind. That makes sense now. I put 2 and 2 together. But no, I liked that as well, and it described it made sense with the aging, because it's like we don't know. Do we really
Giving
know
more
how
of
much
her
time?
life force.
Yes, like hey, look, it's a sequel reference.
Yeah.
Look at that. They exist.
I also
everybody.
I wasn't aware of like how that was already established in canon,
Yep.
and so I wasn't sure if her being a healer was sort of cover for her just being like a like ambassador for the path.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's both. Also, the same book, Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark, there is a Barriss Offee story where, I mean, that's what the whole thing is. It's one of the things that bummed me out because I love that short story so much, because it's her and she's in the Jedi Temple and she's talking about, and it's right after Geonosia, not Ge- you know what I mean?
Geonosis.
Geonosis. I'm thinking Marvel, and I'm like, but and she's healing all these people, but like all these people have wounds that she can't heal, and she sees how that can lead to darkness, and that starts to weigh on her right then and there. And and I think we always forget that she's significantly older than Ahsoka. We just kind of assumed she was the same age when we saw them together, but no, she was at Geonosis. We see her in live action in the arena. She's almost the same age as Anakin. But they them including that did show that the people behind the scenes really do love the lore, and they do love the expanded universe, and I do love, because the MedStar books, underrated, great books. I'm just happy to see them bring that in. I wish though that the first episode we could have gotten glimpses of her life to see what, because it never addressed her making the bomb or her deciding to go down this path. That seems like a far cry, especially for a healer, to create a bomb and blow people up, and that's their sinister plan. And that whole part of it is never addressed. And again, it's because frankly the Clone Wars weren't all that thought out. They were kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck, just like General Grievous was just a means to the ends character with very little depth. Same thing with Count Dooku, and they decided to add that depth in there later. But because of that, you have to work in what was already written. So yeah, that's why I have such mixed feelings about it. I feel like they could have done so much more, especially taking these two characters with these similar arcs, and you could play off of that a lot more to show what led them to this step and then what their ultimate decisions were. The stories just feel kind of random.
Yeah, here's the thing. I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad writing. I think it is just poorly planned writing, and I think people put the adjective of bad on things, and they don't explain why. Like, people are like, Obi-Wan Kenobi was bad. Well, okay, why? Book of Boba Fett was bad. Okay, what?
I can give you a whole essay on that one.
So, and to that point is, I think with the Clone Wars, to Brandon's point, yeah, they were throwing stuff at the wall. And sometimes
Zillow Beast.
Don't get me started on the Zillow Beast. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And I think that gets mapped up into bad writing because we are so used to very cut and polished and, clean stories. And, to put a little reality spin on here, we all are active fans. But the people who are making this, like, it's their jobs. We do this as a hobby.
Yep.
And the lens of a hobbyist is much different when you're clocking in every day to, animate the, hair on like whatever Obi-Wan's head. So I always also like really try to put that into perspective when thinking about the writing, because it has to go through layers, and the people who did write it were placed in that scenario for a reason. And as a writer, like, I don't know. I think if someone went on the internet and was like, hey, this thing you worked really hard on for like ever, and it's like the highlight of your like portfolio, it sucks because someone wrote a book somewhere that contradicted your point. I think if you have a problem with the
pointed
plots,
to me.
No, that's a fair critique. As a graphic designer by day and not a Star Wars podcaster by night, I understand, like, anytime there's a big logo redesign, everyone's very quick to be like, oh, this sucks, or I hate this. I think it's also part of the culture is that we are all on social media, so we are all expected or feel obliged to provide an opinion off the cuff without actually providing any thought or sitting with it. Whereas these writers and like artists who have been working on this stuff have like truly immersed themselves in it to give us the best thing possible. But we have all of this extra noise and content and da that we are always like can jump to at any moment.
Yeah.
That is always going to, it's just, I don't even know what to say.
But I mean, not to toot our own horns, but I think that's why Duel of the Ranks is so great. Because when we talk about things, like, we do take it from multiple perspectives. And I think regardless of if it's a 3% or, a 90%, like, we're fair.
Yeah. Right. And we're talking about it was good because of this and this, and it was, or I didn't like this and this, and I thought this was bad, but we're not just like blanket statements like, and if we are hating on something, we're usually like passionate about it, and we're also not going to actually strangle anyone about it,
unless it's Book of Boba Fett and Brody is here, then there's no holds barred.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
And you're right in the way that all of everyone here has explained things and say things, I don't believe for a second that any one of you would look at someone who likes something who you hate that thing, that you would think of them as less of a person
Hell
because they
no.
like the thing that you hate. So that's what's
Yeah.
most important, and that's what I really appreciate about
Exactly.
this group.
We
So,
love you too, Chaco.
Aw.
Aw.
any other thoughts on the Barris Offie arc?
I think it was well done. My only gripe is that there should have been a connection between Vader and her a little bit more. But then again,
No.
it's fine.
Okay, but
It is
how
what
do you
it
feel
is.
ending? Because I feel like the ending was
Luke.
very ambiguous.
Luke, what do you think their connection is?
Barris put Ahsoka in the spot where she was. If Barris wouldn't have put
Okay,
Ahsoka
it's
there,
Barris's
then
connection with Ahsoka, yes.
and then he also fought her. Okay, all right, you're proving your point. I get it. There is no connection. I just wanted more of that. But the Fourth Sister, I think, makes a little bit of sense because like they showed her in Obi-Wan Kenobi. They're like, that person's cool. Let's put her in something else. But like the way she like absolutely did like an Anakin Skywalker style like we were joking the first time we watched it, like I killed the women and the children, and I was like, this is too close to home. It's not, but it makes sense throughout the whole thing because it's like you finally get Barris to the point where she's like, nah, dude, this isn't what I signed up for. And you're right to a point, Amanda, but like the first episode is like she is devoted. From that point in the episode, the whole point of that episode being devoted is that she eventually gets to that point. And then she has the realization, which is the next episode after the Fourth Sister murks literally everybody except for the kid, that she's down the wrong path. And the way out is just the Fourth Sister kind of deciding, hey, I got to save Barris, and it to do good is to have the way out. And I think that is perfectly done in each episode. Each episode, the title might not have made sense like it did with the titles of Morgan Elsbeth, but it's there. Like those titles were there for a reason, and they all fit perfectly, in my opinion. But I think Barris becoming a healer on the path, when she says, I have a friend, is that Ahsoka? Is that Quinlan? Is that Ventress?
Is that some
Because
unnamed Jedi?
is it Cal? No, it's not Cal. But I think that's interesting, and I will talk about a certain thing for the next animated series in my next point.
So I'm just wondering if anyone thinks that Barris is potentially still alive, if they got that from the ending, or if Lynn was at least determined to bring her body out of there to bury her.
Here's the thing. I'm going to be the villain if I say, like,
she's dead.
Yeah.
She needs to stay dead.
But that is my big gripe, I think, with this is, Dave has been going on for how long now about how, he wants to conclude her story. And then he's like, we're going to conclude her story.
Yeah.
And then it's like, yeah. Now, I don't know if that is, just like a almost like reaction to Star Wars' proclivity to not keep people dead.
Yes.
I mean, look what happened with Tech.
And Ventress.
and Ventress.
Well, the opposite of that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's still wild. But anyway, I, in a way though, if she lives, and this again, I'm the villain here, the whole significance about Order 66 is that most of them died. And I know with the millions of Jedi, there would be more shown, and those are stories we have to tell. But I think in the long run, I think there are other stories within Star Wars besides the Jedi that
Agreed.
we can be telling.
Look at Andor. That's a clear point.
I mean, either way, she survives Order 66. I don't know how it affects it.
Well, I mean, like living on and like past that. Like, okay, like yeah, she's on the path. Awesome. She did her little ditty.
But she
Okay,
did
and then
betray the Jedi.
she did.
Well, and I think to Alanis's point is that when we first started this like canon trip, right, in but in the 2017 Vader run, there were, I think, 30 listed Jedi on that list. I mean, it doesn't really count everybody, but that's what we had for a solid like 3 years, right, Jocko? That there were only like 30 survivors
Well,
that we had known
the number of
of.
30 doesn't bother me. I think it's the idea of like
Anybody
everyone
can.
has a
It's all the
happy
ones that we know.
ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the ones that we know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Listen,
that's
I-
kind of what I was trying to get at.
I don't think Barris will ever be happy again. But so that's one thing. I hope that she does survive because I want her to talk to Ahsoka. That's the interaction I want to see. And now that we have Ahsoka the White, I think she
Yes.
would just forgive and embrace her, and then that would be kind of the closure needed for the character, in my
Mhm.
opinion, because that's the person who she wronged
Wronged.
the most,
Yeah.
besides the people she murdered. But they're dead, so they're
Those two.
Their lives don't matter, apparently. Come on.
Well, before we go on to our next segment, that we wrapped up these 2 arcs. So the Morgan Elsbeth arc ended up with a 74%. All 3 of those episodes averaged out to 74. And then the 3 Barris Offee episodes averaged out to 77. So we did collectively rank the Barris one a little bit higher, even though if Alanis had it her way, it would be weighted very differently. But yeah, let's get into those hot takes then.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It's hot takes time. And Alanis, I know you've been wanting to get something off your chest.
Okay, so this my hot take started with conversation that Luke and I had last night. So I do have to give a little bit of pretext here. So back in the early 2010s, pop punk bands had fan clubs. So, and here's the thing, that when they first started out, you would just throw in your email and you would get, access to the website. As a lot of these bands needed money, they started the idea of a paid fan club. So
Basically OnlyFans?
Pretty much. Yeah. Like, so back in I think it was like 2013.
You want Pete Wentz's dirty underwear. It's $100.
But like that's literally what it was.
Damn.
So like what happened was you paid it was anywhere from like $50 to $100, and you got year access to the site, and along with that you got like access to like Pete Wentz's like live journals, you got like audio recordings to songs, first access to tickets, first drafts of lyrics. There was also like requests that you could put in for like set lists and songs and interview questions.
Did you ever have one of those go through?
Yes. But anyway, it was cool because you kind of had that elusive kind of badge of like, I'm an Overcast kid. So you can get into the whole like, paywall things. But my hot take is that I think for the future of Star Wars and the future of it as a money producing company, that's something that Star Wars should implore, and it should kind of be in this system. So whatever pricing that they would want to do, what you would get access to is all of the things that we complain about that we don't get. And what Star Wars could create within itself, honestly, is its own ecosystem. So for instance, like to Brandon's point, you want to see Barris and Ahsoka. maybe if enough people on, whatever forum they put this on say that, then they give the intern an opportunity to write the script. And then that's posted there.
That's crazy.
And, or for instance, like maybe the unrendered versions of the Clone Wars.
Ooh.
That would have been something that you could watch on there. The episode arcs that were cut between Quinlan and Ventress, that would be on there. So for the regular everyday person, you still got the Star Wars that you want. You get the Skywalkers. For us crazies, we get that moment. And if Disney was smart, they could genuinely turn it into an ecosystem, because you could have a part where people post their work and it's someone's job to scan through and say, oh my gosh, this Luke guy's really good at editing. This Amanda girl is a brilliant graphic designer. Let's reach out to them. It's like literally, and it would create such a better community than what we already have now. There are so many nuances, and then you can get into the whole like, well, if people can't pay, if people can't pay, or that there's so many things to get into with that. But I do think it could be something that brings the Star Wars community together, because we have been, since the 70s, so fragmented. I mean, we've tried with fanzines and all of that. I mean, you can look at Bantha tracks and all of that stuff. But I think in this digital age, and with there's so much talent and there's so much that we want out of Star Wars, I think it could be an interesting opportunity. And I'm curious what y'all think.
I agree. 110%. It's like the guy who used de-aged Luke Skywalker, and then eventually got a job at ILM. I 100% agree. I think that you kind of give the fandom a little more, not a little more say, not like giving the crazies the run of the asylum, but just making people feel like they're being heard. And also kind of like giving opportunities to people that are actually really good in the space. They just don't have the money, or they don't know. Yeah, they don't have the resources to get their work out there. And
so it almost sounds like kind of like a creator fund that Disney would like kind of co-sponsor for like other artists, because like there's no way that Disney would like actually source their own people to like be writing for like things that won't actually get made or whatever.
No.
But there's tons of really talented like fan films that are like production, like high quality ultra cinema, like people can.
Right. And the kind of idea is, with the money that is going in, that money would be used to fund, the fan projects, that.
Yeah.
They create, essentially their own almost ecosystem, and then there's a place to.
It's their own like legends.
Yes. And in a way, they can also kind of like catch the vibe. Like, if in a way, like if they
can be like plugged in
talking about.
Yeah. So like, for instance, like let's say like this existed when they dropped the Rey movie. Besides the whole sexism things that people lost their minds over, it would be interesting if they went in and saw, productive criticisms.
Yeah.
And, they had one contained place rather than scoring Reddit, the hashtags on Twitter, that all the social media do. They have their own little thing.
No, I like it. I think, because it adds an extra little bar. So like the High Republic fandom has been the best place in Star Wars to be, and it's because there's an extra bar of entry of you actually have to read the book. And you can't hate read books. I actually don't think you can. I tried reading Executive Orders from Tom Clancy. I thought it was a terrible book. I made it like 300 pages. Guys,
300 pages is a long way to get in.
Yes. So that's the max I could stick to a book I hated, but that's not even scratching the surface of it's a Tom Clancy book. But like that's why it's been such a safe haven, and all of the stuff has come out after the fact. So like by the time people were complaining about Geode, he was already beloved for
Oh, yeah.
millions of people. And so we're just like,
Yeah.
oh, if you're making fun of Geode, that means you haven't read the book, therefore you have no idea what you're talking about. Like, you know, and so what you're discussing is essentially doing that for the fandom. Now, the fandom itself would have a conniption over this being launched. They would not like it. They would look at it like a two-tiered system.
Yeah.
But I think it would be interesting because, yeah, they could source talent right out of the community and could make sure they kept, you know, the terrible people out of certain things. So we were at one of the people in our group for Daikon cosplayed as Ray. She was dressed as Ray. And
Which Ray
even,
look?
classic Ray from
Okay.
episode 7 with the little buns, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And while talking about it, you know, they played out the little scene where she said, you know, she's Ray Skywalker, and then a random cast member popped out of the ether and was like, she's a Palpatine.
No, they worked at Disney and they said that. Oh, that's awesome. That's crazy.
Oh, they immediately got dumped on by every person
Absolutely.
in the group.
Absolutely.
But like,
that's a bold move.
That person shouldn't be working there, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
just gonna say
That's the
that.
most unmagical thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're watching like little
Why?
kids run up and like hug Ray for the first
Yeah.
time and being super
it's-
sweet, and you have this idiot like,
Wow.
it's not my Star Wars though. You know, so I think anything
Cool,
that
bro.
can help us quell that sort of idiocy is a win. It's a big win for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I really think and I know it sounds bad because yes, it's a paywall, but I think also like, and we all have seen it within our own community, like the people who actually like want to be involved, they can't pay for it. How many times have we seen this community chip in for things like that?
Oh,
for
yeah.
celebration tickets, for con tickets, for cosplays, for rent. Like,
No, yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We've come together for things like that. And I mean, yes, it sucks. We live in a world where we have to do that. But I think if you pay, say, $100 for a year for this subscription and you go in just to be like, blah, raise a Palpatine, you're going to get dunked on for the mere fact that you wasted $100 of your
$100.
hard-earned dollars. Like, at that point, like, is it a kink? Please go see a therapist. Like, that's an issue that you...
Or just go pump some iron like a complete douche.
Yeah,
but, you know.
so I think it would be something fun to see in the future.
I think this deserves a... I think that's a
Nice.
solid one.
Yeah.
So Disney, when you enact this, you know where to find me.
Yeah, we
You know where
would
to
like
start
Roger,
the
we would like a pay raise and also a job at Lucasfilm, and we will not be moving to San Francisco.
I know I would.
Okay, then we are moving to San Francisco.
Dang.
Apparently.
All right.
I'm okay with that. We can be closer
Now
to,
Luke's staying.
to Chaco. But mine's not really hot take, but I'm gonna give a future prediction. The next animated series is going to be about the path. I think that's where we're going. They left the 3 younglings. We've got Riva answers that we need. We've gotten so many things over the last 2.5-ish years about the path, from Survivor, Kenobi, Bad Batch, Ventress, Quinlan. It's the next animated story. Ventress is right there. Quinlan's right there. Hell, we can get Riva back. That's how we get Mos Ingram back. I'm totally game for that. Make it happen. I think it's the logical step. And you guys can tell me that I'm wrong, but I know I'm right. So
I think it is. I think that does make the most sense. However, I do not come from like a place of I don't like Riva as a character, but I don't see Riva as being part of like the larger plan in Star Wars, like at least right now.
I think the way that they set her up in Kenobi is very much because they are giving her a redemption arc, but they are making her kind of like how Crosshair, they are making them
She's gotta
atone
work
for
for
their
it.
sins.
Yeah.
And she saw, well, remember in Obi-Wan Kenobi, she sees herself before she's about to strike down Luke. And that's where she realizes that she needs to let go of that life. And the path is where she's going to be able to be the most useful and be protective. She's going to get that found family that Anakin took away from her. She will get it back with the path. And I think,
Hot take: the path doesn't matter.
but it does matter.
But I don't think it matters to the larger story that they're going to waste millions of dollars to animate a story on it.
Right, because
Like
like
at this point, we get it. Like
the Bad Batch didn't really matter, which is what we kind of talked about last week. As far as like, okay, yeah, we know that the path exists. There is, I guess, a story there, but like, is there enough of a story there to tell a season or 2 or 3 and enough conflict and stuff to make it worth telling?
And I also think, like, with what we've been getting with Star Wars, we're moving away from Jedi. Like Andor, not a Jedi. Mandalorian. Yeah, the recents, there's been more touchies of it. But Ahsoka, yeah, it's kind of actually, no, I'm gonna take that away. It's actually so far removed from like prequels Jedi. So I think going back to the path, like we know what happens. Either they live or die. Either they go on some backwater planet and die, or they are killed in the effort to get to said backwater planet. So I think the next animated series is going to be more with the rebellion, because I do really think a lot of the stories that we have with the rebellion, besides Andor, are told through books. And I think that with the
What
current
about Rebels?
Rebels is already out there, and it's the story of more Ezra than the rebellion. Like I see what it is the rebellion, but I think there's so many more stories within there. I think
Tales of the Rebellion.
Yes, I really
I think that's probably what that could be next.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I mean by like, yes, it is about Rebels. It's called Rebels. But what I mean by that is it's not as political, and I think what Andor gets into is that other side of the rebellion and
the Grammy side.
Yeah. And I think the next animated series, I think we're going to see the rebellion from different standpoints, different ideas, either people leaving the rebellion, which I think that's a story I want to see. I want to see someone starting in the rebellion and leaving, and what that does to a character. That's interesting. That's so interesting.
I think
That's
we're
someone
going
becoming
to
a
get
bad guy.
You sort of got it in Lost Stars,
But
in a way.
book.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's fair. That's
I
fair.
think the next. Oh, go ahead, Brandon. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just a couple things. First, I definitely think a path show or something would have endless retellability and conflict if you are telling the stories of individual people who had to escape something gnarly for freedom. I think that'd be fascinating, because each kid would have a different life story. I mean, they don't all have to be kids either. They all come from different places and different Force traditions, and I think that would be a really interesting way of expanding the entire narrative of Star Wars. But I also agree that I think that the rebellion era is going to be the next era that we're going to focus on, and I feel like that's one of the things that the Bad Batch was hinting at. It was like, their story isn't over; it continues at this point in time. But let's close the door on the Clone Wars for now, because we have squeezed every inch
last bit of life.
Give D. Bradley Baker a break.
Yeah.
Right.
No. So do you think that it would be in between 4 and 5?
The rebellion?
No, like if Omega goes to the rebellion, it's like in between 4, like right after they destroy the Death Star, but before Hoth, because there's a lot of time that takes between 4 and 5.
Again,
comics wise.
Again, I don't think it matters. I think what
That's
matters
fair.
more is Omega joined
The rebellion. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think it matters if she was at the Battle of Hoth versus the Battle of Endor versus the Battle of Jakku versus, it's,
That's fair.
I don't think us being like, she's in the ship matters.
To your point, Luke, because it was too easy to agree with, I'm going to say it's milquetoast.
Milquetoast is fair.
Totally fine
I think
with
that's
that.
fair.
You fool! Your take is milk toast.
I have
This.
off the dome.
Oh, ready.
Ooh, here we go.
Since we're talking about future series and is it in the Rebellion era, I think we should go backwards and do an animated series that takes place during the prequel era, and it's set at Dex's Diner.
Oh hell
Yes.
yeah, I'm in. The stories of Dex's Diner. Oh, I'm
And we
in.
need
I'm
something
so
a little
in.
lighter, a little bit more comedy.
Obi-Wan, what do you know?
You could have still the bounty hunters and the death sticks being passed around and, like some seediness happening, but it's also still like, the regulars and,
I had this brain blast when you said that, Amanda. Like, what if Dex is like the narrator? Like the camera opens and it's like Dex sitting at the diner and he's like, "Oh, you're back again? What are you in for? Oh, I'm just clearing up. We just had a whatever Trandoshan came through. Did I ever tell you the story of whatever da 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 da?"
Which would make sense. Which would make sense because he lives during the High Republic. You could have High Republic stories be told. And you could have the story of
with the prequels like overlapping.
Yes. That's a great. Yep. No, we don't need it,
Amanda. That
no,
heats.
no. That. Here you go. That's like a guaranteed. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Yeah.
Like you added my Globe Shadow. Like that was gonna get a Roger, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, full agreement, 100% of marks. I have to say, not a hot take. It needs to happen.
Yeah. I think Star Wars
guaranteed
needs a
take.
lighter show in the mix,
I think that's what the droids. Remember when that was announced with everything else, but it's yet to even see the light of day?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was supposed to be with R2 and 3PO, like,
Yeah, forgot about that. It was even a
and
thing.
also Lando. I mean, they're actively working on Lando, like script writing with Donald Glover, so that's got potential. Sorry, Chris. They're working on it though.
All right, my hot take is this. This whole Tales of series is just a ball of missed opportunity. We get some cool things, we get some cool backgrounds on some characters, but overall, pound for pound, I think all of it has just been kind of a smattering of random stories, and it all could have been told a much tighter and a much deeper narrative with the smallest amount of extra effort.
What would you change about it?
Well, like with season 1, Tales of the Jedi, and I mean this applies to both of them. I would make the stories of what the characters go through mirror one another, so that you have some sort of narrative juxtaposition between
Like a through line.
Season 1,
Well-
you have two characters who were Jedi who come from the same like lineage of teachers who both left. After they left, they did opposite things. I think that's a really interesting thing. What makes them different? What made them each choose? What made Ahsoka choose to continue to follow the Jedi path? Because she still does everything like a Jedi. Or what made Dooku do this? And you could, each of the stories mirror one another, and so even compared to each other, they even tell a deeper story. And I don't think that would have been much extra effort. Same thing with the season 2.
Yeah, and I think they do in a way do that, because I mean
Doo-doo.
doo-doo, yeah. Funny. Poodoo doo-doo. But no, I agree. I think if they put a little bit more oomph into it, I think it could be spectacular. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I agree as well.
Yeah.
I think you said that well.
All right. Wow, that's a lot of Roger Rogers.
Wow,
That's 3
we're
straight
on a
Roger Rogers,
roll.
and then I got a milk toast, so that's awesome. It's
Maybe
great.
one day.
Maybe. Doubt
Gotta
it.
earn
but
it.
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm here every week. I put in the work. I put in the effort, and nobody wants to give me
Grinding
any
it.
credit. I know. Just-
We'll have a celebration when one day
It's
the Roger Roger
Called
comes.
Get Good.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Strive to be
Get good,
better.
kid. Get good, kid. But
Wow. Well, I think that wraps up this week's episode of
think
Duel of the
so.
Rings. Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe and tell your friends. And I'm not sure what we're going to be reviewing next week. That's something that we will
yeah, we need to have a
a
discussion
surprise
about
for us
that.
all.
yes, it's a surprise for us all.
Yeah, it's a
so
surprise.
There is something I would love to review specifically. with
Okay.
Oh, good.
Linus.
Oh God, no, not that.
I don't know what this is, so
Don't do
What?
it.
I don't know
Keep it a
if we're
secret.
thinking
Keep
the
it a
same thing.
secret. I think we're thinking the same thing.
No, we're not. So there's a new book that recently came out called The Living Force,
Oh,
and
I want to review that.
I really enjoyed the book. I think it's a fantastic read, especially for anyone who, like, I feel like there's a lot of people who will have a lot of hate for the Jedi Council, but a lot of it is, from what I've seen, a lot of it is someone hates the religion they grew up in, and they just transpose all of that
Yes.
onto the Jedi Council, and it has
Yes.
nothing to do with them. This is a mission with the entire Jedi Council.
It is baller.
Like,
I love
Qui-Gon
it.
tells them to do stuff. The entire Jedi Council goes out and they do this thing. Yariel Poof has become one of my favorites.
Yes,
because-
same. He's so old that he makes it everybody else's problem, and I love that. I love that chaotic energy. He's like, I've lived for so long that I'm gonna do the opposite of what I would have done when I was younger. Like,
Yeah.
same, bro. I love that. Thanks, Keanu Mundi. Like, he annoys Keanu Mundi, and it's great because I hate Keanu Mundi.
Just for fun. He stood there and he keeps mind tricking the same guard over and over again because he thinks it's funny. Like, Yariel Poof, top tier Jedi Master. But
God, I love it.
I'm curious how Atlantis would feel about the Jedi after such a book.
It's a good book. We have it.
My stance on the Jedi as a council and as a
Religion.
as a entity,
Yeah, there you
it
go.
doesn't change. I think, like, I just don't like Yoda. I just don't like Yoda. Like, honestly, I think I very much agree with you in the sense that I think people grew up in a religion or a structure that they don't like,
Yep. and
they take that on the Jedi. I think the Jedi as an organization, if you choose to be a Jedi, then okay, you're choosing to align yourself with that set of religion and rules, and just because you don't like that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the entirety of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
No.
yes, I agree. We could get into a lot of discussion.
You should read that book. It is fantastic. I
And it's not a super long book.
No, it's not. It took me.
Once I quit my job.
She says that all the time to me. It's like her
Yeah.
number one is like, once I quit my job,
Once
and
I
I'm
quit
like,
my job.
okay, all
sounds
right.
ambitious.
But
All
I
right,
do
guys.
feel you though, because I absolutely hate Dumbledore.
Yeah, I hate Dumbledore.
And on that note,
And on that note, thanks for tuning in. We will see you next week on Duel of the Ranks. Bye, y'all.